Hey, what's going on? Welcome in. Whew. New week. It's another Monday. I know Mondays can be tough, but it's all right. We're going to get through this together. We got a great episode lined up for you today. My name's Jesse Montano. I'm going to be joined by Meghan Angley in just a minute. We got John behind the glass again because Chloe either hates us or she just lives in France now. We're not really sure.
This is planned.
But like I said, great show for you guys. Really excited to get into it, get this week off to a good start. As always, want to remind you guys about our great friends over at Trusted American Mortgage. Head on over to trustedamerican.com/sports. They want to help you lower your interest rate, get a better monthly payment. And if you act right now, they might even be able to help you skip a couple of those monthly payments, put some cash back in your pocket. So head on over to trustedamerican.com/sports. See how much money they can help you start saving today. Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hey everybody, welcome in. How's it going? I'm Jesse Montano. She's Meghan, the reason you're here. Meghan Angley. We got John behind the glass. Monday afternoon. How was your weekend, Meghan?
Oh, it was so good. I did so little, but I did go to a workout class.
Nice.
And I'm getting so strong for the season, you guys.
I could actually see your muscle definition when I walked in. I was like, or when you walked out, oh, whoo. I thought that was someone recently released from prison coming to beat me up. It's just Meghan. Thank God. Well, good. I remember on Friday you were saying no real plans, and those are always the best weekends.
Yeah, it was really relaxing. I read some of my book and went to the pool. It was great.
Are you a reader?
I'm getting back into it. I used to be, it was sickening how much I'd read that I had to just have a library card. Like I couldn't buy books because I would just read them so quickly.
Okay, good for you.
So I have a library card, but this is a book that I actually bought. So I need to kind of straddle library and buying books a little more responsibly.
See, I just have the wandering brain attention span as I'm reading. So like I actually, the way I got back into reading, because I was one of those people who like hadn't read like an actual book
Yes.
In many, many years, start to finish. And the way I've gotten back into it, I started by 10 pages a night when I'd get in bed. And there'd be, one or two nights where like, okay, I'll read a half page or whatever, but I would just 10 pages. And then eventually it was like, okay, well, I want to get to the end of this kind of thought in the book. Okay, well, I want to get to the end. And it really helped me get back into it because I really struggled ever since I was little, like just get into a book and suddenly you get through, a chunk of 3 pages and it's like, oh wait, shit, I don't even remember what I just read. So taking it into smaller bites has really helped me as I've gotten older.
I do listen to music while I'm reading.
Oh,
so I think I've got a problem.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
And I'm not sure what, I'm not really, I don't know. I think it's to tune out outside noise, like if I'm reading outside, more than anything. But I can understand needing to address having a difficult attention span one way or another.
And see, like people recommended to me once, like, or have recommended me before, like, oh, do books on tape. And I've tried that, and I find it even easier for my mind to wander because you're in the car and you're listening, or you're on the plane, and there's just so many distractions. As when you're reading, you're in it, you're reading the book, and that's what you're paying attention to. But this is now a book podcast.
What are your favorite books? Comment below.
But yeah, I do enjoy reading, and I get something out of it. I am with Hurricane here. I will sometimes put on, as we were talking about, like classical music. Something that I don't have to like fucking sing along to in my brain. Ooh, wow, I just dropped one. Vaguely, get in the chat and let me know if you want me to spoil the surprise for Meghan. What you were texting me about. Okay, should we get into some of this?
Is it a book?
No, it's not a book.
Okay.
Okay. Full reset here. Yeah. All right. Well,
It could be from someone from prison that came to beat up Jesse
Yeah.
Meghan. Sorry, I wasn't following along.
No, you're
earlier.
fine.
That's hilarious.
But Vaguely was texting me about a swear jar, and I'll leave the tease at that for the chat and for the pod.
You're gonna be a proud contributor of the swear jar.
I'm gonna have to stop fucking. Oh my god! I just did it again. Lose a full paycheck to it.
All right, I want you guys to weigh in on the chat. What charity should the proceeds from the swear jar go to?
Great call out. We'll be sending a monthly donation of 38 cents. See you next month.
No, we're gonna do it by the decade.
Well, we'll leave it out for all shows, and at the end of each month, everyone who's messed up.
Yeah, we're a sports media company. That's gonna add up.
Yeah, it'll add up.
That'll freaking add up.
That'll freaking add up. Let's start with Danil Gushchin here, Megan, because this is something that actually we had Dan Webb from 43 Degree Sports on the podcast the day that this trade broke, and it was right as we were wrapping things up. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on this. At the end of the day, it was a prospect swap, more or less. But Danil Gushchin, Megan, is a player that YouTube responsibly, he needs to come with that label right on the back of his helmet. YouTube responsibly, when you're talking about Danil Gushchin, I've gotten a lot of DMs and text messages and things like that, people talking about this guy. So I just want to unpack a little bit of who this player is, and we can just touch briefly on why this didn't work for Oskar Olausson. We are also going to get into, I sat down with Toby Petersen, former skills coach for the Colorado Avalanche, new head coach of the Texas Stars. We're going to get into that as well. And then we are also going to talk about this Olympic orientation camp that Hockey Canada, has sent invites for. And there's at least one former Av who is a little confused, thought his invite must have gotten lost in the mail. And we're just going to go through this list. And did you see that?
I did.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
He is funny. But let's start off the top here, Megan. Oskar Olausson swapped to the San Jose Barracuda in exchange for Danil Gushchin. Gushchin, young Russian prospect, 23 years old, I believe, 5'8", undersized guy, but this guy's a little bit of a human highlight reel. Really high skilled, high producer at the AHL level. Do you want to start with Gushchin, or do you want to talk about Olausson first?
I don't have a preference for the order.
Let's start with Gushchin. I remember you saying on that show when we were just kind of flying through it quickly, you said, well, this will be good for the Eagles, if nothing else, not have to deal with this player on the opposite side.
Yeah.
28 goals, 51 points for the Barracuda last year. And like I said, if you go pull up his YouTube highlights, some highlight reel goals for sure. What are your thoughts having seen a bit of Danil Gushchin last year? Or I guess not necessarily based on what you thought, just your thoughts in general.
Yeah, because he's been with the Barracuda for a little bit now. He's their all-time leading scorer with 150 points and also holds the franchise records for goals and assists, which is how that points total comes to be. That is typically how that works. But I think the playmaking ability of Gushchin is what stands out in his game, as well as a pretty decent shot. I think it profiles differently from Olausson's shot, but it's one of the ways in which he is such a prolific goal scorer. But I think the playmaking ability is what has impressed people over the years as a young prospect. I think, too, I made the note in my initial reaction to the trade about the identity that the Barracuda seemed to be trying to build around really responsible two-way players that are going to get involved physically. And I make mention of that as both a pro and a con for Gushchin, because I think what has ultimately led to this trade is Gushchin not adding enough to his game with respect to that to demonstrate NHL readiness. And that's kind of the case with most prospects, is they don't build out enough in their game around those pro habits to make that leap. And I think it's been building for him and there have been strides, but it's just not dimensional enough at this point with respect to being heavy on pucks and being more aggressive on the forecheck. And some of that is limitations because of his size that are a bit of a tough sell for this player. But he's still such a smart playmaker, and obviously the AHL production is what intrigues you about him. It just hasn't totally translated at the NHL level. And some of that relates to the opportunity in San Jose. I think that they have an abundance of young wingers coming up through the prospect pipeline that Gushchin's skill set is going to be kind of a top 6 forward, whether that be in the AHL, obviously he has NHL ambition, and that just isn't
12 games with the Sharks last year.
An area of the San Jose lineup that they have a lot of opportunity because of some of these other young wingers that are in that pipeline. And so I think they had to make a decision about where they could afford, opportunity for players coming up through the ranks. And I think these are both 2 players in Olausson and Gushchin who are kind of at the end of their roads. So it's that, let's see if a change of scenery is maybe what these players need, because playing in more of a depth role in the NHL on the San Jose forward group didn't really lend itself to his game. And some of that is, the size limitations. And so though I still have those same concerns for Gushchin in Colorado, it's why I'm not sure I'm penciling him in an NHL lineup. And it is because to be successful in Jared Bednar's system, you do have to have a little bit of that heaviness in your game. And I referred to Dennis Malgin on a pod recently when we were talking about, I think, Gavin Brindley, or even if it was Gushchin, this applies to Gavin Brindley too. Like for Brindley and Gushchin, who are now 2 players that intrigue me, they do have the size hurdle that they need to overcome going into next season to justify NHL minutes. And I don't know that the barriers that Gushchin met in San Jose with respect to opportunity at the NHL level don't exist anymore here in Colorado, right? Like if anything, it's that much more competitive. And I don't know that the type of winger that he is what Colorado has need for at this given time. But if he can find a way with maybe a change of scenery and being inspired by some of the talent that is just around him in Colorado, right? And experience something of that Colorado bump, if in what I imagine will be limited opportunity, limited minutes, he can get some of that AHL production to translate more immediately, maybe in this new setting, right? It just resets his motivation a little bit. Then I see the path to sticking in an NHL lineup. But it's a bit of a hard sell for me altogether with Bardakov, a player that is just a little bit more matured and has a bit more of that 2-way game already built into what he does. There are just other players that I think meet the bill of what it takes to play Colorado Avalanche hockey more immediately. And it's going to be then a bit of a challenge for Gushchin. But again, that natural playmaking ability is certainly intriguing. And at the end of the day, this is a huge boost in the overall production for the Colorado Eagles that they're going to be extremely excited to have.
Yeah, that's a great call out there at the very end of it. If nothing else, that's a great offensive boost for a great offensive punch added for the Eagles.
It's a promotion from what Olausson was able to provide near the end of his time here. And that's not to take away from Olausson still being an AHL player, when it's all said and done, and finding ways to contribute, just not at the clip that I think where he was drafted, the Avs wanted to see him at. Like, I think the Avs would have loved to see Olausson be a top 6 option for the Eagles, and he just kind of got beat out of justifying that decision by players like Matthew Phillips. And so there's tremendous opportunity then for Gushchin to be what he was with the Barracuda for the Eagles. And I think his track is a little bit easier to the NHL than Olausson's was.
Well, and for Olausson being a guy who there was so much emphasis on, when the Avs drafted him, this kid's got an NHL ready shot. He's a goal scorer. He's going to put the puck in the net. I remember he scored in that first preseason game he played in. Beautiful wrist shot. And it's like, oh, okay, this is this is who they're getting. And that part of the game just never, really never really caught on in the way that they were expecting. That in conjunction with the fact that, as you and I have talked about several times over the last year, he never really built out other parts of his game. For a guy like Gushchin, Well, that offense, like, yeah, he can produce at the AHL
Yeah.
level. And to your point about Olausson getting beat out, it's because he couldn't produce and he couldn't find that goal scoring touch the same way that maybe the Avs thought they would or thought he would when they drafted him. That's not the case here with this player. He's going to produce the AHL level. He's going to be a playmaker, a goal scorer. Almost a point per game in pretty much every AHL season. He's going to get that. I want to go back to what you were saying, though, about him, Gushchin, being a top 6 player, whether it be at the AHL level or NHL level. That is my brain was waffling on if I think that's a good thing for him or a bad thing for him. Because here we are talking about, well, they need a skilled player for that third line to play with Ross Colton, a guy who can just put pucks in the net. I don't know. Does that open a door of opportunity for Danil Gushchin to make a good impression at camp and potentially get a middle 6 look? But then at the same time, I sit there and say, okay, well, are we right back into the Jean-Luc Foudy?
That's exactly the player I was going to mention.
Yeah, where it's okay. Well, this player, and maybe even Cal Ritchie as recently as last season, where it's okay. Well, you see the fit when you put him with more skilled players, but we don't trust him yet. He doesn't have the 200-foot game rounded out yet to be playing him in those roles, but his game definitely doesn't lend to what Parker Kelly, Logan O'Connor are doing. It's hard to find advanced metrics on a lot of these AHL guys. Definitely, Danil Gushchin, despite him being a big offensive producer, there's a lot of stuff that's happening on his end of the ice when he's out there as well. There's a lot of goals being scored. So yeah, it is. I am going to be really curious to see how he can assimilate his game to, as you were saying, that Jared Bednar 200-foot style, if the change of scenery helps that at all.
Well, and I think coming from this iteration of the San Jose Barracuda is why I pointed out as a pro as well. I do think there's a willingness and a ton of effort in his work ethic to be that player. And that wasn't always true of some of the high-skilled players we've seen come before him. There are players that we've seen show bursts of wanting to apply themselves in this way, but not do so consistently. And so it's not exclusive to Jean-Luc Foudy. There are other players who have come and gone, and that's the reason that they've gone. And so for Gushchin, that'll be the question to be answered, is if he can continue to meet the development of his game with that same level of effort, because I do want to give him credit for that. I think he wants to build out this dimension in his game. Then there is a path forward for him developmentally, and it's going to come down to the consistency aspect of it. And that's what I look forward to, because it's not so different from the conversation we're having around Gavin Brindley, a player who is known for his motor and his work ethic as well, also very undersized. So it's not impossible for them to find their place, but they're going to have to really adopt the Logan O'Connor philosophy of meet whatever needs need to be met and become that player. And so it can be limiting then if he views himself as a top 6 player, no matter the level. He's going to have to really open up his game and be so much more versatile in Colorado in order for it to work out. But it's important to have this type of player in consideration alongside the Steinbergs and the Polans, who have really great two-way games and grit as it is, because you want both the skill and the grit and the work to come together. And so it's kind of a battle of to the middle for all of these players to see who can get there the soonest. Yeah.
How using the NHL Edge stats, how round can you get your circle?
How round can you get your circle? That's perfect.
How round can you get your circle? I see Gushchin as a guy there's upside on. For me, I'm penciling him into that top line, top 6 with the Eagles. I think this is a guy that's going to have to really earn it with the Avs, which I'm not saying isn't possible, but I think he's going to have to really earn it. So when you pull up Danil Gushchin on YouTube, you are going to be impressed, but there's a lot that happens outside of those highlights that he's got to round out.
It's so hard to get skill to translate to the next level. Like, I still think about Poland being tied with Fantilli for goals in the NCAA. And then his first goal scored was actually in his debut with the Avs after going like 30 plus games with the Eagles without registering a goal or a point, something like that. I might have the numbers a bit mixed up, but it's really hard to get that to translate. And that is not a knock on Gushchin specifically, but he has really mastered production at the AHL level, which is already a step above some of his peers that he's competing with. But that is another aspect too of his game that he needs to unlock at the NHL level.
I mean, people are probably getting sick of hearing me refer to Rocco Grimaldi, but he's another player. Like, go look at the way that Rocco Grimaldi produced at the American League level, world championship. And just to your point, it just never translated to the NHL in the way that it did at almost every other level of hockey. Like, it's hard for that skill to translate directly. And that's why when you find the young players who can do that, that's why it's special.
It is, especially out the gate, because like Gavin Brindley has had a rough introduction to the pro level, and I think it will level out from this point on. But his production did not stay consistent with the clip he was producing at in college once he graduated to that next level. And I still have a lot of hope around this prospect as well. But to have then, in contrast, how readily it came to Gushchin, who has also been playing in North America for some time. He's been very committed to making it work here with NHL ambition, going back to his junior days. And so I think
3 years in the USHL.
His patience through this trajectory too gives me a lot of confidence that he can stick with it. You know, there are some players who tap out sooner. Like, I'm surprised to see Nikolai Kovalenko didn't give the NHL more of a shot. Just a bit of a bummer. Honestly, I really thought there was still NHL potential in this player.
And I'd love to know what the market was for him. Because I really do. I just struggle to believe that there was nobody interested in a player like that.
Same. But anyways,
yeah,
Danil Gushchin, a patient player too, deserves some credit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And maybe Nail Yakupov is a better example that I should start giving instead of constantly referring to Rocco Grimaldi. Because
you leave that boy alone. Yeah, he actually was like my arch nemesis. Not actually.
Yeah,
because
Yakupov?
Grimaldi, because of how well UND played against DU and how much Grimaldi was responsible for that. Like, he was in my nightmares.
Well, and so again, like, you know, just another example of, like, I always bring him up because of how good and how talented. I remember watching him at practice when he'd be with the Avs. It's like, this kid is ridiculous. It's hard to get skill to translate in you know, in that kind of manner. And it even takes, you know, I talk about Kirill Kaprizov sometimes. And I remember that first year that he went to the playoffs, and I believe it was Dallas. I mean, just ate his lunch money. And I will never forget, there was a scrum around the net, and Kirill Kaprizov wasn't involved. He didn't poke anybody. And there were 2 Dallas Stars players that just, I mean, were giving it to him. And he was skating to the bench with this look on his face, like, what's happening? Like, what's going on out here? And it was that first time where it was like, yeah, that was Kirill Kaprizov's first taste of the intensity going up, and that much less room, and you have 1 second less, and you know, they're gonna finish their check 10% more than they would have in the regular season. And it's just, and he's now obviously adapted his game, and he's an elite NHL player. It's hard for skill to translate in the NHL. Everybody is so good.
You have to be ready to be humbled at the next level. And the sooner that you embrace that as a strength, the better it's going to work out for you.
Let's touch real briefly on what it was that didn't work for Oskar Olausson. And honestly, maybe as evil as, hey, maybe as easy as, hey, everything we just have been saying, he didn't do.
It's tough, right? Like, that's where this is kind of equal with regards to prospect swap. But some of this, I think, is relying on Olausson's initial draft pedigree. There was injury too. For Olausson's path to this point that I think impacted some of the body of work we have to evaluate him off of. So I'm sympathetic to that fact as well. But I think ultimately, for where he was drafted, being in a middle six role at this point in his development was a bit disappointing. You know, it's not as if he didn't have any production from more like a third line role. He just, even dimensionally, lost out on power play opportunities by the end of his time here, because just having an amazing shot from the dot is not going to justify being on even the second unit when they have these other options. And so that's kind of the story for Olausson by the end of his time here, is there were better, more diverse options for the Eagles power play that kind of put him really down then in the depth chart. Like, he'd still get some looks on the power play, but it wouldn't necessarily be properly the second unit, right? Like, he'd be kind of going out if things just weren't working after the first and second unit were on spot shifting in. And that is a reflection of, I think, where he'd fallen, because he, you know, went from being projected to be this guy that you absolutely want shooting from the circle on the top power play, at least in Loveland. And you want him competing for top 6 opportunity. And it just didn't fully come together. It's not as if, though, he's leaving the organization in this total despair in terms of what he is as a player. Like, he was playing alongside Poland, Steinberg, or like on a line with Ivan and Jake Wise. And those are all players that I think do a lot of what you needed to see Olausson doing. So I really liked the intent behind it. And I think it was just okay. I wanted to see more dramatic results, though, by the end of Olausson's time here. And it goes back to everything we were just saying. He was a bit too much of a one-trick pony. You know, it wasn't as if he was a liability every time that he was on the ice. He just wasn't having the impact of a power forward. And that was what he was supposed to become. And it just wasn't really getting there.
Well, because 6'2", you know, I had an Avs player tell me a couple seasons ago, like, hey, you know, if this kid keeps developing, he can be an Andre Burakovsky type. And yeah, it just never got there. And here was the thing that was always most alarming to me. And again, I'm going to read some point totals here, and that never tells the full picture. But here's why it was concerning.
Throw plus minus in while we're at it.
Yeah, perfect. His rookie season with the Eagles. 11 goals, 9 assists, 20 points. Sophomore season, granted some injury in there. 11 goals, 9 assists, 20 points. This most recent season with the Eagles gets back a little bit more healthy. 11 goals, 15 assists, 26 points. There's no progress being made. The point totals aren't accumulating. You know, you're not, again, for someone whose key tool, whose number one asset was his ability to produce, the production isn't going anywhere. And that, to me, with someone who's so much of his game, so much of the emphasis was, oh, he can put the puck in the net. It's like, well, why aren't we seeing those steps being taken then? And why is it instead he's kind of going the opposite direction down the depth chart, to the point that, you know, what you just said, he worked his way off the power play, with the exception of some spot duty. That, to me, was concerning for a guy who is supposed to be an Andre Burakovsky type, who's defined by your offensive production. It's concerning to me that he wasn't taking those steps. And
what I think is interesting, too, is he had a shot from the circle beat Askarov in the Barracuda series these last playoffs. And I can't help but wonder, too, if they're like, wow, I like that Olausson kid. What's the deal with 2-4? And they're like, it's
a hell of a shot.
You interested in a trade? How about your all-time leading franchise scorer for that shot?
For that guy right there. What a shot, though, eh?
Right? And Askarov, great goaltender. Hard to beat. And Olausson just did it. So
clean. Yeah, I really do. I think as it stands right now, I like the way that the Avs are coming out on this deal. Time will tell. Obviously, both players have a long way to go. But if nothing else, the Avs are going to get something a little bit different. The Avs / Eagles are going to get something a little bit different for some AHL production, if nothing else. Speaking of development, I caught up with Toby Peterson last week.
Yeah.
And it was a whirlwind pulling it together. I want to give a huge shout out to Toby for, he literally came and did it. He was like, I got to get back. My wife's getting everything ready. The pods are showing up in like 30 minutes. We're getting everything loaded, so everything can be put on the truck. So, I mean, he literally carved 30 minutes out of, chaotic moving an entire family to a different state.
Yeah.
To just come and talk to me, because I was down in the area, and he shot over to Family Sports to meet up with me. But Megan, look, this isn't me like trying to take a shot at the Avs. or anything like that. But
get him,
man, it is a bummer to let a guy like this get away from the organization. Not only from all the good that we saw him do with the Avs players, and he talks about that and what his kind of goal was with those players, but the way he helped get injured players back ready to go and get back on the ice. Not only all that, but such a high character individual.
Yeah.
You and I got to know him a bit just because he spent a lot of his time up in the press box. Bummer to see a guy like this get away from the organization.
Yeah. And you know what makes me sad too is I have no doubt that the people they have coming aboard have tremendous character.
Absolutely.
I've already gotten so many DMs about how wonderful these people are too. I think this is the other side of the hockey culture conversation too, is a lot of really great people involved with this sport, that it does stink to see them go. Like when you have the opportunity to connect with them, even just a little bit, right? Like I didn't know Toby Peterson very well, but I saw the impact that he had when there would be guys rehabilitating from long-standing injuries. And, you know, players like Josh Manson would talk about how that was some of the only ice time he would get. And so that's that familiar face in Toby Peterson that is making this less isolating of an experience for him. And you could just see the positive returns that the players had in having a guy like Toby Peterson around. So I am sad to see him go.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to play just a snippet from the interview. You can head on over to our YouTube channel, find the full interview. It's about 15 minutes. But here's a little preview of my conversation with the former skills coach for the Colorado Avalanche, Toby Peterson.
All right, well, Toby, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're getting ready to get out of town. The new head coach of the Texas Stars. I guess, let me just start here. How has this summer been for you? Probably a bit of a whirlwind?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Obviously, we started summer earlier than we wanted, and then just getting into the flow of summer and doing all the kids' events, graduation for my oldest with high school.
Nice.
And then just got a call one morning, just warning me that hey, like Dallas is requesting permission to talk to you, and that kind of changed everything. And then from there, it was just really quick turnaround, and suddenly I'm the head coach of the Texas Stars. So now we're dealing with that, and it's a good problem to have for sure, but it's a lot of moving parts right now for the family and I.
Yeah, like you said, the summer started a little bit earlier than you guys probably had planned, but isn't it crazy how something like this happens and suddenly there's not enough time left in the summer?
Yeah.
So I guess just, you were the skills coach for the Colorado Avalanche for the last couple of seasons, but before that, you were an assistant coach at the AHL level.
Yep.
You played professionally for about 15 years. At what point for you in all of that did this kind of become a goal for you, or was this a goal for you? Have you just been kind of, how has this all unfolded for you since your playing days?
Yeah, great question. There wasn't a point this summer where I was like, I have to be a head coach next year. Like that certainly was not on my bingo card for this summer.
Yeah.
There was openings available, and I wasn't actively putting my name out there. I wasn't requesting permission from Chris McFarland or anyone. Can I go be a head coach somewhere? But I knew in the back of my mind that with the two positions that were available with the Avs, that it became available over time, and just wasn't really a fit, that I had to go out and get some experience, to try to move my way into the NHL coaching circle, like the actual behind the bench coaching circle.
Yeah.
I knew I had to go get some reps at the AHL and try to be a head coach. So when this opportunity came along, there was no way I was going to pass it up.
Yeah, I mean it's. I've talked about it with folks before, and I think you and I maybe even talked about that the AHL maybe doesn't get as much credit as it deserves. The skill level and the talent from coaches to, even equipment guys and trainers. Like there's some really highly coveted positions. The one that you ended up in, like, is this something that you, not necessarily with Texas or whoever, but is this something that you've been eyeing, since your playing days? We talk to guys who say they can identify, players, teammates who they think could be coaches one day. Is this something that you always felt was in you?
Absolutely, yeah. I always felt I had the potential to be a head coach, at some point, at some level. I knew I had it in me to do that. I had a coach's mentality as a player, especially at the end, or mostly at the end, when you're entering the twilight of your career, you start to look elsewhere and kind of say, well, what skills do I have that I could pass on to the next generation of stars in the league? So that's when going from the NHL back to the AHL for my final 2 seasons really helped me kind of become a mentor and figure out my path, what it's going to take to. Willie Desjardins was the coach in Texas at the time, and trying to figure out what he did or some of the things that he was doing behind the scenes to have a successful team. We ended up winning the Calder Cup with him at the helm, so he was a good mentor. And then obviously the next season I'm working with Jared Bednar, so like I got pretty fortunate with the people I've had as mentors, and been able to learn from some really good guys and good hockey minds. But for sure, it's something that I've had my eye on for a long time. And of course, like when my playing days stopped there in Texas, my first call was to Scott White. It was, do you have any openings out? At that time, they were two-coach team. They needed someone with more experience, and there wasn't even a job available, if I remember correctly. So, but I just was trying to get on his radar because obviously would have loved to just keep the family in Austin and make that transition. But, obviously, it didn't work out. But so it's funny how things come full circle, though, and now I'm back with the organization that I finished with.
No kidding. Well, so you used a couple words that you said, mentorship, and just really help you, pass stuff on.
Yep.
Development, is that what you say your passion is now?
Yeah, it's been that for quite a few years now in the hockey world. I mean, like I mentioned, the last couple of years playing was helping guys like, Riley Smith was around, Jamie Alexiak, like a lot of guys that went on to have had good, Cody Eakin, good NHL careers, were the guys that were coming up through the system in Texas. And those are the guys I was really focusing on, just trying to, as much as I could with the other leaders that they're still there, we're still there, trying to get those guys to do things the right way. And they're, to their credit, very receptive and helped us win the championship. So, but beyond that, then becoming an AHL assistant coach, like your main job obviously is development. For me, it was development of forwards, but obviously helping with the D where possible, but development of the forwards. So that's been my focus for years. And then being the skills coach here with the Avs for 2 years, like you're just trying to find find those few inches, find the little 1%, 2% gains you can give these guys to try to help them in the games. Obviously, you work with some guys more than others. Yeah. And with me, it was a lot of times it was the injured guys. But you're just trying to find ways to make them more comfortable on the ice and make them better. And so when the games come around at the high speed that they play, they're ready for it.
So I won't lie to you. I've talked to some of my like real hockey nerd friends about you because I've watched the way that you work with some of those guys, and I think the way you just put it was excellent. You're just trying to find those extra couple inches. Throwing guys bad passes or passes that are bit off the ice or rimming them around the wall, and just those little tiny reps. How much fun was that for you to get to work on those tiny little things, or was it tedious at times working on a sauce pass 2 inches off the ice, 2 inches off the ice? What was that like getting to work on it from that perspective?
I loved it. Every day was a new challenge. I mean, I got to work with guys and kind of depending on who was going to come to me at the end of the practice, obviously would change things. But I had drills in my head always ready, so no matter who came, I had something ready for them. But then especially with the injured guys, like when I would have a guy and I knew I'd have him for an extended period of time, like I would have a plan in place based on the player. Like Val's probably going to do different drills than Devontae's if he's with me. Like it's just different positions, different skill sets you're trying to work on, and things in their game that they're trying to work on, they'll often come to me and say, I want to work on rims. I'm having troubles with the rims. Landy's a good example. Like when he was coming back, he wanted to do a lot of rims. He wanted to do wall work, just get that back and get comfortable. So so it was fun for me, though, being able to mix it up every day. No 2 days ever looked alike. And I had fun. Like, I got, you get sore elbows, sore forearms from saucing a million passes at the same time. But it was a pleasure.
And I know you and I have talked about this before, but not every NHL team or organization has a position like that. How important, now having been in that role yourself and now moving into a head coaching role, how important do you see having someone who can work on those little things? And like I said, I love the way you put that, helping each player get those extra couple inches. How big is that in today's game?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, guys want it. They a lot of them have them in the summer. They're on, they hire guys to come out on the ice with them and work on different parts of their game. And I know the numbers it seems like they're kind of picking up in the NHL. More and more teams are hiring them full time. But a lot of teams that don't have them on full time, they still have someone around that can come and help out in the community, so that they're getting their reps. But I do think it's important to get that individual work, because the practices, it's a lot of systems, it's a lot of puck touches, but it's really they're kind of scripted. Like your route down the ice, you're getting the pass here, you're coming down the ice, you're going to cut to the middle, you're going to shoot it. Like it's really scripted. You can almost do it in your sleep. When you get a skills coach, that's doing different drills, like a lot of times they can apply pressure, make you think quick, have different cone setups and things that can keep them on their toes a little bit more than they're going to get in an average practice.
Well, I mean, I remember I'd see guys that would be working with you guys, whether it be they're coming back from injury, and they'd get frustrated at stuff. To your point, guys don't get frustrated running through your normal warm-up drills and stuff like that in practice. So, just that little bit of nuance. I always found it fascinating. just to watch what you were working on with guys. You want to go back to Jared Bednar because you worked behind the bench with him at the American League level.
Yep.
Now work with him here. How much have you been able to take away from what Jared does day to day that you're applying going forward, or just not even going forward, just day to day?
Yeah, I've learned a ton from Jared. Obviously, like being around him for 2 years in the Columbus organization in the minors, and then 2 years here with the Avs. Learned a ton from him. Fortunately, I'm a pretty observant person. Like I'm always kind of taking mental notes.
Yeah.
So just watching the way he goes about his business, his preparation, his video sessions, and just kind of watching all that, you definitely pick up a lot from him. And fortunate to have worked with him for all that time, and great mentor and good friend.
All right, so there we go. You can catch the rest of the interview over on the Gorilla Sports YouTube. Trying to help players get an extra inch, 1 or 2% better. I really loved that because that's what it was. Can you take this puck off the wall 1% quicker than the defender can close on you, so you can get a path to the net? Like I said, selfishly, I'm really bummed he's not going to be around. I always love talking to Toby, but that's a guy that I think has a long and fruitful career behind the bench ahead of him, Megan.
Yeah, it's a very detail-oriented view of the game to have had this skills coach role, because he did break it down to identifying individual players' needs in order to come up with the specific drills that would benefit them most. And I think that's going to translate very well then to highlighting his players' strengths in Texas, and being able to pinpoint too what might need to be built into their game, and immediately having an idea of just how to do that.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing this with Ben Myers, like on optional practice days, some of the extra work that Toby Peterson would do with respect to things like more advantages in getting pucks through traffic, with some of the tools that they'd bring out onto the ice. And, it's not completely unique to the Avs in this way, but that expertise to be able to pinpoint what the player needs and to come up with drills to be able to work on those things is going to lend itself a lot in an AHL head coaching role.
Well, and getting to, he was an assistant coach for Jared Bednar when they won the Calder Cup with the Cleveland Monsters. And then obviously having worked with Jared Bednar now for the last couple of years in this, again, championship expectations type organization. I think that's going to go really far for him. And one of the things he gets into in the part of the interview that we didn't play is that nuance of how he works with players and gets those individualized programs set. And it's a lot of two-way communication and, we're working on those things, and then being able to go back and watch the video and giving the why and saying, hey, here's what we worked on. Here's the film of where you did it or didn't do it in the game. And all of this to say, I'm with you. I think he's going to be extremely well equipped to be an effective head coach at the AHL level.
I think he's got a really great demeanor to connect with young players too. It feels very positive and affirming, and that kind of delivery when you're delivering what might be received as a criticism is very important with young players. So I think it's going to translate well in an AHL environment specifically.
Well, and then he didn't bring this up, but I'll say it for him. When you've worked a couple of years with a guy like Nathan McKinnon, a guy like Cale Makar, and those level of expect, these are easy conversations now.
Yeah.
With AHL players, I can do that all day. And so he's going to be set up well. I'm looking forward to, he said that, and I'm actually going to go double check right now. Cause I asked him after the interview, I said, you guys are coming to Colorado, right? And he said, yep. He goes, I have to double check. The Eagles might even be the team that we play at 3 times.
Interesting. Yeah. Cause they're an outside of division opponent, but they do play each other. I just don't know in total what it'll amount to, but that'll be very fun if it's in Colorado 3 times.
Yeah. He said, and I'm trying to go through now. But yeah, I'm hoping that our paths can cross with Toby at least a couple times this coming season. Anything else on Toby or just any of that, development AHL. I am going to be curious to see who the Avs get to fill in this skills coach position role.
Yeah.
It's something they definitely like having around.
No, I'm really curious now too. It's kind of had some turnover now the last couple of seasons, so I'm excited to see who they bring in, and hopefully they can add their own spin on things in the way that Toby did.
Yeah, absolutely, and best of luck to Toby, no doubt about it. Like I said, selfishly, I'm bummed, but best of luck to him. Great guy. We've talked a lot about hockey culture in the last week. He is one of the good eggs. Yep, yeah, he's one of the ones you want. All right, we're gonna wrap things up today by talking about an interesting list of camp invitees for Hockey Canada. Orientation camp coming up here for Hockey Canada. Essentially, what they've done is gone through and it's a preliminary list of 45 skaters who are being, I'm going to say, are right now being considered for the Olympic roster. I had it pulled up earlier.
I can send you. I had a second. We've sent you.
And I wanted to just go. All right, here we go.
You got it.
Should I read all the names or should I just put it up on screen?
Oh, put it up on screen.
All right, let's do that.
And then read all of the names.
And then read each one. I could do that. Wrong thing. All right. Okay. This isn't going to be edited, so we're going to be boom. All right. Hard to see, but I'm going to start with the forwards because I actually think this is the one where it makes the most sense. Connor Bedard, Sam Bennett, Quentin Byfield, Macklin Celebrini, Anthony Cirelli, Sidney Crosby, Brandon Hagel, Bo Horvat, Zach Hyman, Seth Jarvis, Wyatt Johnston, Travis Konechny, Nathan McKinnon, Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Braden Point, Sam Reinhart, Mark Scheifele, Mark Stone, Nick Suzuki, John Tavares, Robert Thomas, Carter Verhaeghe, Tom Wilson. So those are the forwards that have been invited to Olympic orientation camp. On defense, Evan Bouchard, Noah Dobson, Drew Doughty, Aaron Ekblad, Thomas Harley, Cale Makar, Brandon Montour, Josh Morrissey, Colton Parayko, Travis Sanheim, Shea Theodore, Devon Taves, Mackenzie Weegar. Now, the most puzzling part of this list to me, Megan, right there at the top, goaltending. The 3 goaltenders, just 3, have been invited to Olympic orientation camp for Hockey Canada.
What did Logan Thompson do?
Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill, Sam Montembeault.
First of all, Mackenzie Blackwood
snubbed. Honestly, him and Logan Thompson snubbed. I don't know what is going through the brain of the.
And if this is just a camp, you can have a couple more goalies.
Right. You should have 6. You should have
between the snub of Thompson, Blackwood, maybe even Kemper after the year that he had.
Yes.
I'm just like, we really lock ourselves into just 3 goalies.
And honestly, I know Jordan Binnington woke up at the very tail end of 4 Nations and turned in a stellar performance in overtime of the final. I don't have an issue with having those 3 goalies there, but you genuinely, based on the way last season went, the 3 goalies that you just listed would be my 3 goalies. Mackenzie Blackwood, Logan Thompson, Darcy Kemper.
If the league wants to continue, Hockey Canada wants to keep sleeping on Mackenzie Blackwood, that's fine.
Right.
They'll know soon enough.
Well, I don't get to your point. This is an orientation camp. You have 45 guys going. You have double the amount of forwards that you're going to end up taking. You have double the amount of defensemen that you're going to end up taking. Yet you're taking the 3 goalies that you took to 4 Nations and that's it?
Right. Just for the purpose of this camp, right? I imagine it's going to be broken down into groups and things. You might need to, I don't know, rotate in some goalies, alleviate some of these I don't know. I'm imagining it like development camp, and I'm like, yeah, you can definitely spare some goalies here.
Right. And knowing that like this isn't necessarily indicative of what the final roster is going to be. Sure, if one of those 3 goalies that we just mentioned comes out and starts the season with his hair on fire, yeah, maybe they'll but you got guys on this list that you're not going to take. You're unless he goes absolutely crazy, you're not putting John Tavares on this team. Bo Horvat's probably not making this team. Wyatt Johnston probably isn't making this team. Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, I think are going to have a hard time making this team. But you got them there because if they start off the season playing well enough, you want to have them as an option. I don't get why you would limit yourself to 3 goalies that, in my opinion, are the 3 wrong goalies to have there. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It feels like a message is being sent
100%
covertly that there's more to this than, oh, just 3 goalies, no big deal. It's like it's 3 goalies and these 3 only.
These are our goalies.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, like I 100% agree with you. And I know Hockey Canada is big on, well, we like for you to have played for us before. So honestly, like okay, if you're going to send that message with the goalies, why is Connor Bedard on this list? He skipped world championships. Are you not mad at him? Are you not sending a message to him too? I find it so bizarre. Even if you end up taking these 3 goalies, why not have 3 other high-end goaltenders at your camp just in case? I don't get it.
To have had the look, right?
Right.
In season, you'll have the regular season results, but with these players,
right,
this is a limited opportunity to see all of them together. Why wouldn't you want more information?
I'm with you. This feels like a message of these are our goaltenders.
I think there's got to be some interpersonal issue. Maybe not so much with Blackwood and Kemper, who are Kemper's. I'm pointing out Logan Thompson specifically.
Darcy Kemper, notoriously hard to get along with.
No, and I don't even know that it's like anyone's a villain. It's just there's probably history here that is influencing this. And for Kemper, I think it's more so he's just kind of nearing that, what do you call it, like the back 9 of his career. So even though he put up great numbers this last year, I think there's just an understanding of what he is, where he's at. And with Blackwood, he's too unknown and untested. With Thompson, it's curious, I guess, like he had so many injuries in the Cup year for Vegas that maybe he's a bit untested in that sense. But a good season with Washington this last year. And so a lot of people thought his body of work wouldn't be consistent, kind of after some of the early success in Vegas. And there's been some injury concern. But beyond that, he's continued to put up pretty good numbers. So I don't know what it is. Feels cultural.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely something weird about it. Is Sam Montembeault like, because he's the one. I still think Aiden Hill is an interesting pick over some of the other guys. But Montembeault is the one for me where it's like, this dude is shockingly average.
Trying to see. Wow. Okay. So I knew him as a young goalie in my mind from when I first saw him breaking into the league. But he's 28 now, which is still young for a goaltender, for the record, but older than I expected.
Yeah. And like just for the first time took over his starter role this last year was average. And it's like, so you want to make sure that you've got room to have that guy, but not to bring in 3 other guys that could be starters for you. You're that content with Jordan Binnington, who is either elite or terrible. Aiden Hill, who I'm with you, he's exceeded expectations. No problem there. And then Montembeault, who's a career 900 goaltender. No real playoff experience outside of 3 games this last season.
It's got to be a chemistry thing, right? Like these don't disrupt.
Right.
The balance of the group, the vibe of the group, which is crazy with Jordan Binnington.
Right. The fact that you're saying all that and their go-to guy is Jordan Binnington.
It's got to be different to be his teammate.
The most like volatile guy.
Like if you know him as a teammate, maybe it's fine. I don't know. But I mean, how many of these guys has
that's why Kadri's not there.
How many of these guys has he tried to fight?
Right.
There has to be at least a couple.
How many guys has he swung sticks at?
That actually isn't now. This is a crazy conspiracy with Kadri being left off the list.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to think that Jordan Binnington's making all of these decisions.
Kadri was the player that I teased off the top that publicly dropped some question marks in the comment section of this list being released.
He's so funny. But also, there are a lot of setters represented in this list that are very good. So I kind of see just from that perspective, but I don't know.
It's hard for me to find a player on this list and I'm like, ooh, Kadri's clearly ahead of this guy.
Well, Tom Wilson, a winger, but
Yep.
Tom Wilson being on this list ahead of Kadri, though a center, is weird to me. I don't know why that's weird to me. And everyone has a different role to play in the makeup of a forward group. And so like what Tom Wilson is not largely represented here necessarily. So I guess I get it.
I remember them saying that they liked that for the Kachuk factor.
Which
he's a Kachuk brother deterrent.
He definitely is. So like that isn't really represented here a ton else. Other than like Sam Bennett, I don't know. But
yeah. Imagine a line. Sam Bennett's a center, right?
Yes.
Bennett, Marchand, Tom Wilson.
I mean, it sounds annoying.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'd.
Since we're inviting everyone.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It is funny. Where did you draw the line on the list? What were you going to say you like?
I love seeing the babies there,
Yeah.
Celebrini, Bedard.
Totally.
But if it's kind of like for the experience and to start getting them around these group of players, I don't know, why strip Kadri?
Right. No, I
of the experience.
I agree. Bo Horvat, maybe Anthony Cirelli.
Oh, I love Cirelli.
Well, I'm just saying.
But I know I see what you mean.
That you could talk me into. I also really like, but like that. Those are a couple of players. I'm like, yeah. You could convince me that you'd want Kadri ahead of that. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good list, though. I mean, that's a lot of good players.
No, this is a good problem to have.
It's a good list, except for the goalies. I don't understand. Weird. I don't understand.
No, the goalies are weird. Let me go back to the defensemen again. Let's see. I like the defensemen.
Yeah. Noah Dobson. Again, that's another one where it's like you're bringing Noah Dobson, but you're not going to just bring some of these other guys for them to get. Like Noah Dobson will be on some Olympic rosters in the future. Probably not this year.
Yeah.
There's just some of these guys that you can look at and say, yeah, they probably won't be there, but I understand why you brought them, which makes it even that much more puzzling why they left certain players off.
I kind of get Noah Dobson. I feel like Sanheim's an interesting player, like has had now a couple good seasons that I think have elevated his, because his name's now come up in trade rumors, and Philadelphia is unwilling to part with him because of the increased value. But I guess I just need to see it more consistently.
Here's a
for
comment
me to be super sold
on apparently on Sportsnet. Steve Villaquette said that Logan Thompson wasn't selected by Team Canada because of, quote, personalities at the top. The quote goes on to say, quote, I don't think Cassidy and DeBoer were going to have it. That was never going to happen.
So I think this is real. This is a thing. Pete DeBoer and a goalie with an issue. Fork-founded kitchen. But yeah, no, I mean, there's got to be more interpersonally going on there.
Right. But like you said, they're clearly after high upstanding moral characters. That's why Jordan Binnington's on the list.
I think Jordan Binnington's got dirt on somebody and he's making these decisions.
He's pulling some levers. Anything else for today, Megan?
No, I'm just looking over the defenseman one last time. Yeah, Owen Power. What do you think?
Is he on the list?
He's not on the list.
So again, this isn't,
since we're inviting evereveryone.
This isn't a shot at Noah Dobson, but if you're gonna have Noah Dobson there, why wouldn't you have Owen Power there? Like that's. I would love to know where they said that's enough. We'll stop the list here. Because
that's a young defenseman that I think would also benefit from this experience in the same way we're talking about Celebrini and Bedard.
Right. Probably not for this Olympic cycle, but when the NHL goes back in 2030, yeah, those are probably the guys.
I'm not mad about any of this. Well,
no,
maybe I'll be mad about the goalies.
I'm annoyed about the goalies. Like you said, I don't really care, but it's annoying.
Confused by the goalies, but also as long as they stay blind to Mackenzie Blackwood for now, I want him to have opportunity later.
Mm-hmm. And, it's also one of those things where, okay, well, maybe Mackenzie Blackwood getting a 3-week break in February will be a net positive.
Exactly. I won't mind it.
Yeah.
He can go get sunburned again.
That's right. That's right. All right. That's going to do it for today, folks. We'll be back at it on Friday. Another great show for you guys. We're into August. We are in the home stretch here of the off season. We have camp next month. Yeah, it's still a month out, but it's next month. So we're getting there, folks. Meghan and I are actually going to be meeting a couple times this week to be discussing some content and what we're going to be bringing to you guys next. So really looking forward to it. And then make sure you guys do catch the full Toby Peterson interview on our YouTube channel that you can go watch right now. It's a great chat. And then coming up here in about 15, 20 minutes, we'll have Going Deep with Jackson and Goodman, Nate Jackson, Eric Goodman, breaking down everything Broncos, NFL coming up right here on the Guerrilla Sports Podcast Network. Like I said, in about 15, 20 minutes. So stay locked in. We'll have it for you guys then. Thank you so much. We will talk to you later. Big shout out to John behind the glass. We'll talk to you guys next time. Have a good one. Have a great week.
Bye.
See ya.